Welcome to Veteran Voices, a podcast dedicated to giving a voice to those that have served in our country's armed forces. On this series, which is part of the Supply Chain Now family of programming, we sit down with a wide variety of veterans and veteran advocates to gain their insights, perspective, and experiences. We'll talk with many individuals about their challenging transition from active duty to the private sector, and we'll discuss some of the most vital issues facing veterans today. Join us for this episode of Veteran Voices. Hey, good afternoon. Scott Luton here with you on Veteran Voices. Thanks for joining the show here today. Today's show, we've got an opportunity to talk with a huge veterans advocate, a dear friend of mine, all about taking action. Not words, but taking action to serve the veteran community. So stay tuned as we learn a lot more. Quick programming note before we get started here. If you enjoyed today's episode, find and subscribe wherever you get your podcast from. Veteran Voices is powered by the Supply Chain Now family of programs, and it's part of our Give Back programming. So please do it as an Air Force veteran. It has just been an outstanding, rewarding aspect of our journey. So with no further ado, want to bring in my dear friend, husband, father, huge veteran advocate like we talked about, Seth Deitchman. Seth, good afternoon. How you doing?
I'm fantastic, Scott. How are you?
We're great, man. We miss doing these things in person, like we were just talking about a moment ago. But hey, this too shall pass, and we're going to get through it, and we're going to learn a lot from these challenging times, aren't we?
Yes, and from your mouth to God's ears, sooner than later.
For today's conversation, I've enjoyed collaborating with you, just our friendship, but also your service. And it stood out from the first time we met. And I want to dive into that because our veteran community is so dependent upon fierce veterans advocates that know the value of action, know the need that's out there, and they go out there and do it. And that's, if we looked up Seth Deitchman in the dictionary, that'd be one of the definitions there. So I admire that. I really do.
You're kind.
Well, we've had a chance to rub elbows while you do it, and there's just a huge need. So we're going to talk about some of these things, and we're going to be offering some of your perspective and insights with our audience to give them maybe some ideas of ways that they can get involved and help and support. But for starters, let's get to know Seth a little bit better. So, Seth, tell us where'd you grow up, and you got to give us a story or two on your upbringing.
No dirt, though, no dirt. So I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and far from that now in Johns Creek, Georgia. It's me, my two brothers, and my parents, and then below us was our grandparents at different times, different sets. We had a two-family house, and I got to say, it was really, truly an awesome upbringing. And I don't want to say the hard streets of Brooklyn, but there were some great or horrible opportunities to go the wrong way. And, your circles are so important. And obviously parents are so important. Leadership around you is so important. And I talked to some of my friends, and they've all done well for themselves, and they're all moving forward in good places. And it's great. Unfortunately now my high school's shut down because things aren't as good as they used to be right back in the day. But it was a wonderful opportunity growing up there. I wouldn't, and I couldn't imagine changing it for the world, right? Sometimes I want to put my kids there and say, this is how you should grow up. But it is what it is today.
So what I think, if I heard you right, you grew up in the same house with at least one set of your grandparents. Is that right?
So it was a two-family house, meaning there was no stairs or open door to the house downstairs. But Grandma's like, hey, Seth, can you go to the grocery store and get me some? She could scream it, and she was deaf, so she was screaming, and I was screaming, and she couldn't hear me. So it was great. But we're always with our grandparents, one set of them, either my grandmother or my grandparents on my father's side. So that, again, the opportunity was unbelievable, just the stories and what have you. It was nice. And they weren't around long enough, in my opinion. But it was, yes, thank you. It was definitely very special.
what a great advantage to growing up and having extra sets of parents that love you and you can learn from. And I bet they had plenty of stories. I mean, what an enriching, aspect of your childhood. But what else, when you think of growing up in Brooklyn, New York, what else is like one thing that you wish your kids had the opportunity to do?
So my kids are young, they're 10 and 12. One thing that I loved about growing, it was diversity. It was so diverse. In high school, I played football. I was not that good to go play college. If I did, I wouldn't have gone very far. But with all that, it was different stories from different areas and different socioeconomic and kind of everybody coming together. That's what you hear about New York as the melting pot. And then when you grow up and you see it, not that it's not diverse where I am now, it's just ultimate diversity. You hear kids with accents and like, well, you're not from here. You grew up in Russia and now you're here in high school with me. Oh, you're actually from Jamaica and it's really amazing. Black, white, Asian, Hispanic. Yes, is who was involved was yes. And that went into sports as well. That went into getting people on the weekends. That got into, in a sense, going to the movies with different sets of friends and walking around and not being judged in a sense that, hey, you're with someone Hispanic, you're with someone Black, you're with someone white. And it was great. It was just something I feel like different than this today. Maybe I'm just missing it some. That was tons of fun. And one fun story that growing up playing football, I was one of the few friends, because I hung out with the nerds. I was not a nerd, meaning the smart kids, right? Because I wanted to be smart and they wanted to be athletes. Maybe I was bigger. I don't know if I was an athlete. So on Friday nights before our football games, we used to walk around and my kids get such a laugh out of this. I used to shave half my face and just get my game face on, and I used to have my friends push me around just to get all psyched up and ready for the game. And I'm like, all right, eventually got enough because I want to hit him back, and I don't want that. So that was one of the fun things we used to do on Friday nights before football games, just to get my mind going and then ready for the next day. It wasn't Friday Night Lights like it is in Texas or in Georgia, but it's still football, and we still have to do our own little rituals, which was fun.
Absolutely. Oh, man. What position in football?
Nose tackle.
Really? You got to be really mean and scrappy. I don't see you as a mean. That surprises me.
So I would consider myself more of the 12th man because I was kind of I'd say maybe a motivator on the field. And I say I'm proud to say I was probably almost definitely the 11th best player on defense. We had a phenomenal team. We had really such an outrageous team that I was glad to be, in the starting lineup, which was just or play at all for that matter. And I was just glad that my edge, I think, was just to pump you up, motivating, and hey, I did my job, and my two tackles next to me made me look small, so they were awesome. Right, so anything they would do, I'm like, I was with them. I helped. I did something. I don't know. I sat there.
Give me that 0.25 of the sack, right? That quarter of the sack. Give me that. I earned that statistic.
I grabbed the shoelace. I swear it. I got a shoelace.
All right. So before we talk about a lot of the cool things you've been doing over the years to support the veteran community, real quick, let's talk about what you do professionally. So share that with us.
So I work with Morgan Stanley. I am a financial advisor, an alternative investment director there, and I work with individuals, families, just helping them plan for whatever their goals may be. Often it is retirement, as you might imagine, sometimes wealth transfer, and it's hopefully keeping them protected, sometimes from themselves, as we just saw just recently in March, where the market got scary. But really helping them manage their investments and setting up a plan for them to be successful, and hopefully for their kids and grandkids to be successful and leave a legacy as well. So it's kind of an honor to do that and to support people in places where they want the help and they need the help and they're excited to be a part of it. And I'm grateful and honored to be able to do that for my clients and friends.
Outstanding. All right, so. As I mentioned on the front end, huge advocate for veterans. And, it reminds me of our buddy John Phillips and I've stolen this phrase of his time and time again because I love it. Deeds, not words. It's just that simple, right? It's just that simple.
Yep.
Now, perhaps more than ever before, we don't need any lip service leadership. We got to have action, and that is what I admire about you. So let's talk about with all that you've done and contributed and led and coordinated. Where does this love and admiration and sense of duty come? What's your why for doing that for the veteran community?
Thank you for asking that question. I guess there's several whys, but really, so go back to just one quick step. So my father never believed in guns, right? And listen, we were in New York. You can't have a gun anyway. If you do, it's illegal. But it was like, no, peace to the world, which I'm peace to the world as well, right? We all want peace. That's a given. However, my uncle was in the Marines, his older brother. That wasn't really the why. I didn't know better then. I could tell you now. So I don't know if you mentioned, I'm not a veteran. I'm very much a civilian. And my why really spurred when I had children. Right. I've always been a fan of veterans. I mean, how do you, in our military, how are you not, right? I didn't grow up in Vietnam era anyway, when there was some negativity. But when I had children, we see hopefully the best of the world, right? And my kids get to walk around, run around free, not having to worry about, I hate to say it anywhere, bombs going off or being shot at or anything else. And I'm like, whoa. That's when I think about world, that's such freedom. That's unbelievable. You don't get that anywhere else, right? I mean, it really is amazing. And who does that for us? Look, not me. I mean, I protect my children in a different way, but that's our amazing military and our amazing veterans, right, who have done that as well. And it started really clicking. They're the ones. They are America, right? I mean, think about it. I mean, we were just watching Hamilton, and like, yep, the war before Hamilton, before we became, the United States of America. They were all fighting. Everybody had to fight. Now everybody doesn't have to fight, right? Which, listen, I wish I was there. I would have been better man for it if I went in. However, and my two brothers in particular, they would definitely be better off if they went in. But in general, it's just I don't think we can do enough or thank them enough because I'm free, you're one of the great veterans, but so many others who I think sometimes, I hate to say take it for granted, but don't even think about it on a regular basis. I think that I can't do enough.
Yeah, I'm with you. And look, I was a data analyst in the Air Force. I wasn't a combat veteran. I think, we had Jared Turner on the last episode. And he served 2 tours in Iraq. And to hear him talk about those experiences in combat, the things that these combat vets that boldly and fearlessly, serve our country in war, and what they deal with and continue to persevere through on behalf of all of us. I mean, it is eye-opening. And, there's so many aspects of the veteran community that don't get enough attention from my humble opinion. But folks that serve in combat and what they deal with and then come back, and then, of course, they've got to make they got to kind of switch over to working in the private sector and compartmentalize all of those experiences. And that's if they don't haven't suffered, all types of injuries. These are very, very brave individuals, and that doesn't do them justice. But so I'm like you. I admire these folks that give us the sense of freedoms and the way we live, and allow us to go out and do pursue what we want to pursue.
I can't agree more. Let me just say something on that, Scott. That's okay. So I can't agree. I mean, boy, you can't lift them on your shoulders enough. I totally agree with that. However, I'm talking to you and all the other veterans and the current military out there and the spouses, etc. You raise your hand. You didn't know what you were getting into, right? I mean, so yes, I'm more praise to them, and I want to do more for them. I agree. However, veterans are up here. You can't see it, but here, right? They're because you all raise your hand. You all say, please take me. I need to protect my country. If you want me to type and send letters, I'll do that. If you want me with a gun in front, I'll do that. You don't know what you're getting into when you sign up first. Am I right?
Yeah, I'm with you. Sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't. And at the bottom line is the bottom line, and that's whatever Uncle Sam needs at that time. Everything can change. But the other thing that really sticks out, and we're going to shift gears here in a minute. We're going to talk about the Tillman Run, especially in Atlanta, which is really where we worked a lot. I followed. I just followed, and I admired a lot. But, in this, we've been at war forever, as we all know, approaching 20 years. And some, during portions of those years, it's been front and center day in and day out. And unfortunately, in other points in time, you wouldn't even know it. And that's a crying shame. But one thing that does never changes is the need and our responsibility to take care of those that have served and have sacrificed so much, including, as you called out, wonderful call out, the spouses and the families that enable and sacrifice so much as well, and including those in National Guard and Reserve. So I love your perspective. No surprise there. And I love your action, which leads us to the Tillman Run in Atlanta, which you led for 9 years. But let's make sure folks know about Pat Tillman. So tell us a little bit about Pat Tillman.
Hero's hero. If you don't know Pat Tillman, this is going to be that much of what you need to know. Please go look him up. He is a hero's hero. In a sense, the first thing I'll say is he had the American dream, was living it literally. He was an NFL football player with a wonderful life, a beautiful wife. And he said after 9/11, my team needs me, but my country needs me more. And he left a new contract on the table. He went and became an Army Ranger. And to make a long story short in this span, he went off to Afghanistan on a mission and was unfortunately killed while, performing his duty, unfortunately killed by friendly fire after everything came out. And and this is, I'm going to say this, but I knew him, right? I didn't know him exceptionally well. We had a few classes together at Arizona State, more so I revered him more than he knew me, or because he was like, holy cow, it's Pat Tillman. If you saw him play football in college, he was an animal. He was like I wanted to be, or who I thought I wanted to be when I played football. Not that good at all. Like, forget about I can't put us in the same sentence if we're talking about football or anything else for that matter. But he was always passionate, and there was nobody that would tell you anything different. And he was clearly very passionate about freedom and about our country. He got to play football. Who gets to play football? We're the only country but regardless, his freedom was amazing, and his passion for our country, as well as his brother, who was enlisted with him as well. Just an amazing family. He was amazing. He was an amazing man and truly a legend. And
selfless.
Again, a hero. He is selfless. That's such a great way to put it. Just I guess knowing him and he's from my alma mater, Arizona State, and for what he did, one of my goals or my dreams for the run when I was organizing it was to have as many kids there as possible, because he's a hero among so many others in the military that, again, he gave up everything. He had everything. He didn't have to do another thing. He could have retired then and just lived a great life, been wealthy, etc. He's like, no, we need more here for this country, right? And I know that I'm more needed on the battlefield than the football field. Unfortunately, it didn't work out the way that anybody would have liked. I'm sure any American would have liked. But now I want kids to know about him. I want kids to know about really all of our heroes. But one of the reasons why I was organizing the Pat Tillman Run here was to have not just kids, but kids predominantly, because I want that story to go on forever, to know what people do, what sacrifices people make. I don't say every day, but on a regular basis, and we don't know about. And hopefully more people know about him, because he is such a great American and great human being. that it's worth knowing. He should be in our history books, in my opinion, and just revered for what he did for my kids. My kids weren't born yet, right? But he sacrificed for my kids, even though he didn't know them, and your kids, etc. Like you sacrificed for my kids as well. So
it's such a tremendous story there. What he left to serve his country. And you're right. We can't do it justice in the short amount of time we've got here. But the really neat thing and the good news here, if we really look for it, is the really neat stuff that the folks behind the Tillman Run, the National Tillman Run. There's I'll tell you what. Let's ask the experts. So tell us a little bit about the organization, because I think there's runs in a lot of major cities in the States. How does it work? And then tell us about where, a lot of the funds that are raised, where those go.
Sure. So I'm not part of the Pat Tillman Foundation, a volunteer for them, organizing this previously. So the Pat Tillman Foundation is, I think it's still based out of Chicago, big presence in Arizona. I went to school. The first run was done in Arizona, in Tempe, and winds up ending on Sun Devil Stadium, which is on the 42-yard line. His number was number 42 while playing at ASU. And that run has, I think it caps at 31,000 or so just because of capacity. And every year it sells out, which is amazing.
Awesome.
I wish I could say our run was big enough, but I couldn't handle it if it was. But so it's been there for 4 years, I think it was. And then they called it Shadow Runs, where they brought it to Atlanta, which Atlanta was one of the first cities, again, I say Atlanta, but Metro Atlanta, where it started, among others. And now I think it's in 35 cities across the U.S. And then there's some other virtual runs, throughout the world, right? If they do it in Afghanistan, they do a run on bases and things like that. And so what the foundation does is they raise money to provide scholarships, academic scholarships, to veterans and or their spouses to further their careers and better their communities. Now, why I say better their communities, because they have to be involved and have to, again, we're talking about now giving back. They have to give back and want more. Maybe they're becoming a doctor. Maybe they're becoming, a Wall Street someone, but they're giving back and they're bettering themselves. And you know what? Like other people, they're probably making more, doing more, and then they're giving back and they're sharing more. And these are usually just amazing, amazing people, right? And they're really bright, just and passionate. And you see that with all the Tillman scholars. And I got to tell you, I know some people who applied for the scholarship but didn't get it, and I'm like, that's impossible. That person needs to get it. So I have to imagine how unbelievable some of these scholars really are if that person or that person didn't get it. I'm like, so they're doing great stuff. And again, for a spouse, because listen, spouses give a lot when their spouse goes off to, to war or just to be in the military at all. To serve, exactly. Thank you for that word I'm looking for. So it's well-deserved on all sides. And it's a wonderful organization that these are people that did great for us, and they're only going to do greater for our country while they're in civilian clothing, right? And they're going to give back to civilians and veterans without question. I don't know if that answered the question well.
No, it really does. And so we encourage folks to check out the Pat Tillman Foundation. I'm glad you shared that disclaimer. I should have thought about that before I put you on the spot there. But
no, it's okay. It's okay.
But we are both, well, not parts of the organization, huge fans of what they're doing and huge fans of Tillman Run. And while I think a buddy of yours founded the Atlanta Tillman Run, you served as main quarterback for 9 years. That is a ton of work, Seth. So
I had hair when it started. I had hair, and I don't have any now. So that's one of the reasons it's gone, right?
All right. So
and no gray either.
So tell us a little bit about, when you look back at those 9 years, what are some of your favorite parts of that? And then in a minute, I want to find out kind of the logistics behind the run.
Lots of wonderful memories. It started out like all right, guys, let's sing the national anthem. I wasn't singing. Nobody wanted me singing. But we, so all right, great. 1, 2, 3, let's go. Nice, and it was great. It was wonderful. It wound up being fantastic. And we've had some great leaders. Kalen Robinson, who's a UPS employee, he's the founder, right? And he started, and he had great passion behind it. Again, went to Arizona State as well, and it grew slowly but surely. And I'm like, to me, my thought behind it, getting people who know Pat or don't know Pat want to know more about getting involved. So I just try to spread the gospel of who he was. And, it started out from 40 people, to 70 people, to 100 people, and kept going. And I'm like, let's see if we can get a vendor here, regardless of so we had some food come out, right? A vendor, which is cool. We had Coca-Cola has been awesome to us. They gave us water, which they didn't have to because they're local here. They were just wonderful, and they're big advocates of veterans as well. And then we got a few more. And so one of my highlights, I thought, was if you're a football fan here in Atlanta, you probably know who Dan Quinn is, the coach of the Falcons. And if you don't know him at all, he's a very, not outspoken because he doesn't like to talk about it. He is deeds, not words, right? Is that the phrase? That's what John says, right?
That's it.
Deeds, not words. And he is all over it. And so I reached out to the Falcons because you can't reach out to Dan. He's, big time. And he eventually came back, and, I asked him if he would be our grand marshal, which we've never really had one before. And he said yes. And I was like, what? And it was great. And he knew Pat. He, I think, not played against him, but coached against him at some point. So he was, I think, more honored to be a part of it than anything else. And he came back really every year. Yes, it was 3 years in a row that he came. And one year Arthur Blank came as well, which you recall meeting him and your kid taking a picture with him, which was just awesome.
That's right.
And we had some, great, we had like a radio station there. So it became something more than just a run that we were putting on.
Right.
It wasn't because I'm not so popular. It was, listen, it was Pat's story, right? It was, why are we doing this? And it's Pat's story, but it's also the story moving forward of his legacy about supporting veterans and supporting great things. And it became relatively easy to organize if you had it down. I say that
really?
To an extent, because that's not really true. It's not. It's just that you had things in place, and that was
you had the game plan. After a couple of years, you probably had the game plan, so you kind of knew you had to plug this in here, but you still had to go to find the things that you plugged in, right?
Yes, very much so. It was not, let's get it done. It's snap of fingers or twinkle my nose. No, that didn't happen. But game plan was right. We did this. How can we make this a little bit better? Let's tweak it this way. But it grew. We had to find different venues because to fit more people, which was pretty cool. Again, not that we're not Tempe, we're not 30,000, never will be, nor would I want it to be for that matter. I want to raise the money, but not that. Another big thing was getting UPS as our primary sponsor. They are an unbelievable organization, among others who are our sponsors, but UPS was our lead sponsor, and it was just so awesome to have. And because, again, talk about an organization that supports veterans, woo, they are unbelievable. And I know you know that firsthand as well. So super cool. To get the foundation involved, because I'm a small run, get the foundation involved, get Arizona State involved because they're a big sponsor. It says we're really doing something right here, and getting the right parties involved, super fantastic.
That was really neat to see both Dan Quinn and Mr. Arthur Blank, who also does a ton for a variety of causes around Atlanta, but certainly the veteran community. He really supports that, and from an action and a financial standpoint. So very appreciative there. So 9 years, and then you passed the baton, of course, in 2020. COVID-19 challenged you to do much of those things, but they found a way to kind of do it virtually. But what's one thing that 9 years of leading that event really illustrated you, or was there a Eureka moment that you had that might be universally applicable? What really sticks out in terms of a lesson learned from all that work?
I mean, this is a life lesson, but in the sense, not towards me, but leading by example. It came and brought other people out. And I asked people, hey, would you help? And then some people said no, and that's okay, right? They're busy, different lives and different challenges. But when you showed that you were doing something, and then you had this person, and Scott Luton was helping, and Lloyd Knight was helping, and this, and then, oh, okay, it's worthwhile. And then you got them to action, and they said, well, like, you know what, I'm going to get my company involved. You know what, I'm going to show the snowball effect, in a sense, that really occurred was just, it was beautiful to see. Right, and that's community coming together, something bigger than you and me, and that was my Eureka, because it started off, like I said, so small, right? It was just, and I thought it was worth spreading the gospel about, hey, this is just a great organization. This is why I'm passionate about it. This is why I'd like for you to learn about who Pat Tillman was, what the foundation does, what it does for our community here, because we have scholars here, you know, in this area, all over the country, and all over the world, for that matter. And that part, the snowball effect, the community involvement became super, and that was the part. So, and it wasn't just me leading by example, right? There are other people who took the ball and ran as well, right? You did. You became a sponsor, right? Which was awesome, and you volunteered.
I loved why, to your point, you had all these different groups and individuals that would come out and participate or volunteer or sponsor or you name it, all kinds of different things. And a lot of active duty folks came out and they'd run kind of information and stuff. That was really just, it was a great event, home run event for a great cause that did great things, you know, raise funds and going back and helping those scholars that you mentioned. So 9 years at the helm of that, and more equally as important is you grew it, so you could help more, and the event helped more. So admire that. So let's shift gears as we kind of move into this final segment here, and to our listeners, you know, Seth and I both really enjoy the Metro Atlanta business community and the veteran community and doing business here. But, you know, one of the things we talked about prior to going live here was about how much, you know, different cities and different initiatives can learn and benchmark as we're all trying to serve this massive group that has so many different needs in so many different ways. So this next topic about Vetlanta, it's really, as much as it is about Atlanta, it really isn't. So I really want to preface that on the front end. So let's define it first. What is, you know, you and I both have volunteered. You were on the executive committee for 3 years with a group called Vetlanta. What is Vetlanta?
The reason behind it sometimes, or the words behind it sometimes change. I just like to put it as, again, based in Atlanta, if Atlanta's here to make Atlanta the top destination for veterans and their families, right? And that encompasses everything you can imagine to make it a top destination, right? A place to live and work, etc. And boy, they are unbelievable. But I say they, and they is the people involved, because the organization is always built up of people. If an organization with no people is just a shell, right? So it's such a worthwhile organization, and I love to say, which I know Lloyd loves to say, we don't want your money, right? There's no money. We don't want anything having to do with that, right? And so
you're referring to Lloyd Knight, one of the co-founders and the current president of Atlanta.
Yes, he's a lifelong president. I'll try to get out of it one day, but it ain't going to happen. Yes, and that makes it so easy that you can't even sell it. Like you give it away, and people, I hope, grab it. Like, give me, because that's the piece. It's give. That's the word I'm looking for. Is people. You want people who want to give, right? Give back, share, right? Help. That is the key. Collaboration. It is. You know, Lloyd and John Phillips, another co-founder, they, you know, collaboration on steroids, right, is what John likes to say as often. And it is, right? It's community collaboration. It's two wonderful nonprofits working together. Wait, I have this. I'm trying to veterans health, and I'm doing veterans homelessness. Well, let's work together for veterans, and then boom, 1 + 1 = 5. And it's amazing. And that's what happens. It is just such a phenomenal organization.
Very holistic around all the different needs. I mean, as you and I both know, there's a ton of groups that specialize in certain aspects, you know, job assistance, which is really important. You know, we need a lot of that. Healthcare, which is also really, obviously really important, need a lot of that. But to your point, Vetlanta really created this community, this clearinghouse, this veteran organization that helped folks network. It helped, to your point, potential partners find each other. And I love that 1 + 1 = 5. That's my kind of math, Seth. I like that. That was the potential, and that was what has been realized in so many different ways since Vetlanta opened for business, even though they didn't want anyone's money. There wasn't a membership. That was the beautiful part about it, and that was also one of my favorite parts of being involved. Is you didn't have to fundraise, you didn't have to encourage folks to sponsor or become members. It was all about the mission. And all right, so now hopefully folks have a sense, and vetlanta.org, I believe, is the URL. Folks can learn about it there.
VETLANTA, because sometimes Atlanta, what is it? So yeah, sorry.
Vetlanta.org. That's a great call out. So now that folks have a sense, let's talk about, what do you think, having been on the senior leadership council and being a part of, standing up some of those initiatives or supporting them, leading certain pillars of the organization and just absorbing it all. What are some things that stick out that you think other cities or other similar groups potential groups could learn from Vetlanta?
The number one thing, you have to think outward, not inward. If you're thinking outward, you're ready to give. Like, I have a reason, I have a purpose, there's something there that I want to do. Scott, you appreciate veterans too, right? Okay, let's get together, let's talk about it. What can we do? And this organization, I volunteered or I've given to this, and I'm putting it together. So go back to collaboration, go back to community, and then go outward thinking and, wanting to give, right? I talk about our freedoms. I talk about how blessed, many of us are here in the U.S. and in our communities. The opportunity to be able to give back and think differently, thinking that, and this is not the way I want you to think, but you can think of it this way, is that I'm giving back and I know it's going to benefit me, right? Because having people in a better place is going to make my place better, right? End the story. No offense of us, right? So it's a selfish way to think. If you want to be selfish, right, give so you can get. And I think that's what happens. When you see a veteran who, they're in my world now, they're a civilian, right? And this is why I wanted to talk about this as well, if it's okay. That's why I think Vetlanta wanted me on the executive committee, because, I'm a civilian, I'm not a veteran, I don't know their language. And you guys have a language that I don't understand, right? And you're coming back into my world, right, into civilian world, which I've only been in. You've been a civilian as a teenager, and then you went into the military, and then you're back again, and you have to learn to speak my language. And I used to stop the guys, what, E3? What are you talking about? What is he? Eventually you get to learn it and know it and talk about these different things that they're mentioning. You'll never get a job talking about E3 in an interview. You got to break it down, and there's many wonderful organizations that handle that and help that. But coming from my perspective, in my world, which all veterans are in our civilian world now, it needs to be communicated. It needs to be, now we're on the same level. I think you're revered on our level, but you have to feel great about being revered on our, this is me, in my world, where I'm coming from. I would love to say that all civilians come there, but I think it's collaborating, and big thing for me that I think veterans need to understand is they have to be able to, one, accept help, and two, ask for help, because often we're not mind readers, because in the military, it's the got your back, don't worry about it. You just go forward, I got your back. You don't have to ask for help, right? In this world, in the civilian world, you have to ask for help. And that was one of my things I pushed as much as possible. And I kept saying I was a broken record. Like, you guys need to ask for help, you veterans, but we want to help. We I really want to help, right? Just ask me, I'll ask you, and say yes, and say this or that. And so that was a big piece, just coming from. I know I went a little bit of a tangent, but that was something that I felt very important about.
You don't know what you don't know, and and there's so many folks out there that do want to help, but if they're unaware of the need, they don't even have the opportunity to make the choice to help, right?
Right.
One of the other things I think is it would be really super relevant for folks in other cities that, kind of want to stand up a similar organization or initiative or what have you. I think one of the things that's really served Atlanta well is finding those, just like the Tillman Run in Atlanta, you find those corporate sponsors. You don't need them to write checks. That's the beauty of it. But if they could offer up, venue space for a lunch or a dinner event, and better yet, if they've got a great corporate kitchen or, and they can throw that in at no cost to them, or if they can't, doesn't matter. But starting, getting access to venues and facilities, oftentimes corporations want to help, and that tends to be an easier way that they can help, even if you got to go through the security protocols, this, that, and the other. But that seemingly was really helpful on the front end. UPS obviously offered up a lot of space at their corporate headquarters here in Atlanta. I think that's one of the things that if you're listening to this in other cities, take a page out of that playbook and find an early corporate supporter that doesn't need to write you a check, but can support what you're trying to do in a maybe an easier and very powerful way.
Yeah, well, that's beautiful, and I'll say so. Not to give my organization a plug, but Morgan Stanley, we were a sponsor one quarter for one of our summits. And we don't have a big venue street, but one of our leaders, Max Hilsman, is a military veteran. He's awesome. He went to Epps air hangar, and Mr. Epps is a veteran as well. He's like, you can have my hangar. And we supplied the food, Morgan Stanley, which usually the sponsor does. It was, if not the coolest, and I'm not saying because it was ours, it was such a cool venue. It was just, I'm like, man, I can't believe this looks so great. And it was, and the food was great too, and the atmosphere was just fantastic. Everything was
great.
And actually it
was home run stuff. And I think you had the founder, or at least one of the senior leaders of Bunker Labs, speak at that same event, right?
The founder, yes. And that's where we kind of broke the champagne bottle on the ship to say, hey, Atlanta now is an official chapter of Bunker Labs. So it was a very, big, momentous, experience, I think, for all of us. And we had some great speakers, and it was awesome. I wasn't one of the great speakers. I was a speaker, but I didn't.
You're great. Man, you're a great speaker. You've got a great sense of humor. I've always enjoyed. So, and it's a quick sidebar for folks that may be new to Bunker Labs. It's a great veteran-focused incubator for entrepreneurs and business ideas, and they're expanding in a lot of cities. And that, as Seth mentioned, that was that event kind of was their formal launching or announcement that they're alive and well in Atlanta, which is really, really neat. Okay. So Seth, I'll tell you, I'd love to sit here for the next couple of hours. Maybe we get an adult beverage and we just enjoy each other's company. But I know you've got work to do and kids to see, and I do as well. Let's make sure folks that listen to this know how to connect with you, whether they want to pick your brain around a Tillman Run in their city or Vetlanta, or just being a meaningful, results-oriented veterans advocate, which in and of itself is something we need a lot more of from people. How can folks connect with Seth?
You can certainly reach out to me on LinkedIn. Our profile is linkedin.com/Atlanta Financial Advisor, or you can probably just look up Seth Deitchman. I don't think there's two of us anywhere. If there are, I like to meet the other me, if there is. But so LinkedIn /Atlanta Financial Advisor.
I didn't ask you about something, Seth. I was going to ask you. I was curious about this group, BH Technology Group. I think you serve on the board as an advisor or a volunteer or what have you. Tell me more about this.
So it's again another wonderful organization. So BH Technology Group. BH stands for Brain Health, and it's really today it's so needed, and I mean right now, especially because we're all so isolated. We are providing education. It's a nonprofit. We're providing education, technology education for seniors to use their iPhone, iPad, Samsung smartphone, any which way, computers, etc. So my mom which she knows how to use an iPhone now. She can call yes, exactly. She can FaceTime my daughter or my son on his iPad. It's so key. They can go to the bank on their computer, right? They can check their Morgan Stanley account on their phone if they need to. Just all these things that are so critical, and being connected. That's the thing. If you're isolated and you don't have a phone, is fine, but it's great to see you here on Zoom, right? It really is. It's nice to see you smile around and just nodding and not knowing you're responding. And it's key. My mom loves it. And we get such great responses from everybody. We have a wonderful caring board that I say everybody either has or had a parent or grandparent who could or could have used this, and a friend, and it's the same thing. And it's just, and so there are good things that have come out of COVID-19. It's crazy to say, but now we've gone from just Georgia. We're in New Zealand recently. We're in Florida. So we were just here. We're in several different states, and we're in other countries now doing virtual classes, which is turn on your Zoom and we'll teach you everything else. So turn on your phone and we'll teach. It's really great. And it does help with literally health. I mean, physical, mental, because mental leads physical and everything else. So it's just something I'm passionate about because
it's easy to get isolated in this environment. And I would imagine it can be even easier, unfortunately, for older citizens that maybe they don't quite have the family. A lot of folks do, younger generations and whatnot, and they have maybe less of a network around them. So what I hear you describe is this nonprofit BH Technology Group helps make the world a more connected and a smaller place, and give folks, it helps pull them out of what can be really isolating situations, and better yet, not just to connect, but to learn new skills and make life more convenient. And I hate to be too dramatic, but live again.
Yeah, I totally agree. It is. I mean, you see your my mom, or you see your mom, or you see a grandparent, you see a grandchild. It's just, we want to have many stories to say. And I remember when, grandma did this or grandpa did that, and I saw them do it even though I wasn't able to be there. And then when you get it, hey, grandma, you're great with the phone now, and it gives them that much more, and they can talk with their friends. My mom's a Facebook junkie now, which is kind of fun to see. I'm like, what? You couldn't even take a picture before. Forget about post a picture, right? So that stuff makes her feel great. She's like, yeah, I love this. I saw my friends at Brighton Beach Baths. I'm like, what? No, you saw friends anywhere. I'm amazed. So it's fun to see and fun to hear.
Love it. Again, well, I should not be surprised that you're involved in any other another service-oriented nonprofit order that's helping folks. I admire that about you. I certainly admire all that you've done and continue to do for the veteran community. And it's great to reconnect with you. Speaking of connections, this is overdue. We talked about this long ago as we were breaking bread over healthy salads, right?
Yes. Now it's closed. You heard it's closed now, right?
That's right. The restaurant that Seth and I had lunch in last, unfortunately, was claimed with economic and COVID-19 trends in recent months. But hey, we'll break bread again soon. We're gonna break through all this stuff and get to a much brighter spot in the months ahead. And again, Seth Deitchman, really appreciate it. Folks, connect with him on LinkedIn at a minimum. And if you can't find, and Seth, we're gonna make it really easy. We're going to have some ways that folks can connect with you directly in the show notes. So, make it real convenient for folks, but really appreciate all that you do, Seth Deitchman.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you.
Absolutely. We'll do it again soon. All right. So to our listeners, hopefully you enjoyed that conversation and Seth's perspective and kind of point of view as much as I did. Of course, I'm partial. He's a dear friend and someone I admire. So, but hopefully you enjoyed it. Hey, this is Scott Luton wishing all of our listeners nothing but the best. Do good, give forward, and be the change that's needed. And hey, we'll see you next time here on Veteran Voices. Thanks, everybody.